Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. My name is Donna Gordon, and I'm part of the Learning Development team here at IIRSM. Your speaker today is Robert Bradley. So before I hand it over to Robert, I'm just going to run through a few things first. To begin with, you'll see to the right of your screen a toolbar with various options. You'll be on mute for the duration of the webinar. Feel free to ask questions, make comments using the question area on the dashboard. We will take 5 to 10 minutes at the end to respond to these. If you need any support using GoToWebinar, the I symbol will take you to the support site. Finally, this webinar is being recorded and a copy of the recording will be placed on your IIRSM YouTube channel after the event. So that's enough from me. Robert, I'm now going to hand over to you.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much, Donna. And welcome. Good afternoon. Thanks very much for joining us. Hopefully then we might get a few more. Somebody's cut off already. Hopefully we'll get a few more people joining us as we're going along. So my name's Rob Bradley, and I've taken on the responsibility as for chair for the Yorkshire and Humber branch. Kind of inspired to get involved when I've been a member for over 10 years now, and did attend some meetings back in the day, and did get quite a lot out of those meetings. And unfortunately, due to various circumstances, the meetings haven't taken place for a few years, as well as obviously COVID. And so I was delighted to get involved and get things moving again. So I've got a few ideas about what we're going to try and do moving forward. Certainly in the short term, and I'd just like to put out as well at this stage a plea to any members who are interested in getting involved as a volunteer, getting involved in the committee, to please let themselves known to either myself or to Donna. I know one or two of you have already kindly volunteered, and we're trying to get a meeting set up soon to get you involved and to sort of plan some good activities and events moving forward. And so please have a think about that. Just a little bit about me. So I've been involved in sort of safety and risk management for more years than I care to remember, certainly in excess of 30 years. Worked across the UK and over to the Middle East and Europe as well. My background is largely in the sort of hospitality and leisure industry. Former life in sort of operations in hotels and retail catering, and drifted into compliance sort of about in the 1990s, really, with various legislation that changed and came in and had to get involved in. So that's where I really got interested in compliance. I work as a freelance consultant now. I've got a number of clients, a lot in hospitality and leisure industries, but I've also got some sort of more traditional kind of businesses in industries as well. So I've got a broad range of experience on health and safety and risk management generally. Now we're obviously going to be looking at arranging meetings coming up, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about those later on. But we've set out a number of objectives which I just wanted to share with you for the branch to make you feel involved in that. And we're trying to get an active network of like-minded professionals. That's really what it's about, and help support each other in the aims. And encourage a view of effective safety management as good business. It's one of the things that's attracted me to it, is that if you have good systems of safety and risk, it's also about having good business as well, and it helps to structure a business. And we're trying to engage views across a broad spectrum of professionals, not just purely in health and safety, but a wide section of people in a cross-section of industries as well, in helping to create creative solutions to risk challenges. We're going to try and arrange we'd like to do some workplace visits as well as part of our plan. And I think we got a lot out of those. I know I personally did in some of the meetings that we arranged previously. So that obviously will come as we develop. I'd also like to do a little bit socially as well. So we know that we're Yorkshire folk are sociable and we like a pint. So we'll certainly be trying to arrange some social activity as well later on. CPD is a lot of the reason why a lot of people get involved with this kind of thing. So yeah, we're looking to have some activities which will enable you to record them as CPD, and I'd very much like to try and extend the membership as much as we can by linking to universities. So getting students interested and involved in risk management. I do have some connections at Beckett University, so I'm hoping to sort of work on those and try and get that kind of side of it developed as well. So I've got a full list of ideas, and as I say, if anybody would like to help me on this journey, and then please do make yourself known, and it'd be great to meet up and have a chat about that. Okay, enough about me. So as you can see, the fellow in the pink shirt there, he's very kindly been patiently waiting while I've been talking. So for the very first meeting, when we first talked about this probably 2 years ago, I was very keen that I wanted to get Clive onto this first meeting. He's the closest thing we've got to risk management royalty in Yorkshire. So I thought it was appropriate that we got him on board, and it just so happens he's the president of the IIRSM as well, and he's been president since December 2019. So just a little bit more about him. He's currently the group head of health and safety for Derwent London PLC. So he's got a sort of small property portfolio of about £5 billion or something or thereabouts that he has to look after. He also, if that's not enough for him, he gets involved in a few other bits and pieces, like chair of the Managing Risk Well Working Group on behalf of the HSE. So that's a useful connection there. He also sits on the Health and Construction Leadership Group and the Construction Client Leadership Group. One of the interesting things as well, that he was awarded the Freedom of the City of London in 2018 for his work and contribution to health, safety and security in the city. So he regularly exercises sheep, I know, down Oxford Street, but he did tell me he would rather exercise them in Millennium Square in Leeds, I think. So the most important thing about Clive, though, is actually a very big supporter of Leeds United as well. So, it gained him some credibility there straight away. I first met Clive when he was with Landsec. He was head of health and safety at Landsec. And I had the enviable task of attempting to guide the senior board members of Landsec through an IOSH Leading Safely course. I'm pleased to say Clive was incredibly supportive through that challenge, and it's been very supportive in helping me to get this branch up and running. I know he was keen to get out into the branches and get out and meet people, and that was one of his objectives in his office term as president. But obviously with global events, he's not been able to do that. So I'm really pleased to have him on board with us today. I've got a few questions I'd like to throw at him, but I'd really, really hope that everybody out there has got some questions that they might want to ask him, just to keep him on his toes. So if you, as Donna mentioned, if you wouldn't mind putting those into the chat box, and then we'll introduce those questions as we go along, as we see fit. So please feel free. So Clive, thank you very much, and welcome. Good afternoon, and thank you very much for your time. I know it's nice to have you. You're back at home for the weekend, so that's out of the city and back to Donny and with your feet on the ground. So that's great. So thank you very much for joining us today and helping to support the kind of relaunch of the Yorkshire and Humber branch. So can I just ask you first? maybe you can. There may be some members who are on this afternoon who maybe have been a member for a while and are not really sure too much as to what's happens in IIRSM. Could I maybe ask you to just give us your view as to what the IIRSM represents and what we're actually going to be achieving?
Very good. Well, thank you for the very kind introduction, Rob. There, very good. Thank you. I have to live up to the expectations now, for sure. And I probably should have worn my Leeds United shirt, but it might have put a few people off. But you never know. But thanks for that, and more importantly, thanks for the opportunity to be at the Yorkshire and Humberside branch, really, because as Rob alluded to there, one of my sort of commitments to the IIRSM Council Board was to get out and be very visible within the Yorkshire region and supporting it. And of course, the events over the last 18 months, unfortunately, I've not been able to do that, and it's been very, very frustrating. But just recently, I've been asked by the CEO of IIRSM if I would consider staying on for an extra year in the hope that I can then do what I said I was going to do in the first place. So I think that's what I'll be doing throughout 2022. So yeah, so you might have me for a wee bit longer. So which is good. So we can all sort of come out of this pandemic and you know, really raise IIRSM's profile in terms of what we do and how we do it. But to answer your question, Rob, I mean, I'm sure most people on the call this afternoon know that IIRSM is a charity, and it's a sort of it's for those responsible for managing risk in any business, really. And I suppose for me, that's what attracted me to IIRSM, the fact that for many, many years, I've been put in this box as a health and safety person, and you get sort of targeted with this same brush as lots of other negative sort of trades within our industry. And for me, health and safety often carries that same stigma as what mental health does. You know, if you're out somewhere having a bite to eat with somebody and they ask you what you do, shall I tell them I'm in health and safety or shan't I? And more often than not, I just tell people, unfortunately, I just tell people I work in property. And then you can get on to it. But more recently, I do now say that I'm a risk professional, because that's what I see myself as a risk professional. And that's what really drew me to IIRSM, probably. I've been a member, a bit like yourself, Rob, for a long, long time, but it wasn't until I got sort of really embedded into the council, really, at IIRSM, that I realised that, you know, risk management is really what we do and how we do it. Hence why I wanted to be part of IIRSM's journey to raise its profile, to make sure that we can represent, you know, industry in the right way. And so hence why I've sort of nailed my colours to the mast with IIRSM, because you know, whatever we do and how we do it, we manage risk in businesses, albeit we probably sort of specify in health and safety and security or whatever, but we do manage risk, and we should sit with other risk professionals in the business that manage other business risk, whether it's insurance or whatever it is. We should sit with those. And you know, my quest is that within Derwent is to change my title from the group health and safety director to a risk director, because that's where I see myself as. And before I leave the industry, I would love to see our industry from a health and safety perspective more represented as risk professionals. And I think that's another great way of bringing young people into our specialism, because a risk professional sounds a little bit more attractive than a health and safety professional. Dare I say that? But I've just said it. But so I think it carries a lot of credibility, and I'm not knocking what anybody does, but I still believe that health and safety, there's still that stigma around it when you say that you're in health and safety. They just see the negative side of it, as opposed to all the value that we add as risk professionals in our own businesses on a day-to-day basis. And that's what we're there to do, aren't we? We're there to sort of be enablers and not blockers, but most people think health and safety is a blocker. And I'm digressing somewhat here, Rob, sorry, but
no, you're not. I think it's a really valuable point.
Yeah, there's a company called Acre based in London, the recruitment agency, but they did a survey a couple of years ago, and they presented the results at one of our IIRSM annual general meetings, and they went to London, Edinburgh, Cardiff, and it's a bit like going out into the marketplace and asking people what they think of mayonnaise and stuff like that. But they asked what their people's perception was as health and safety, and they provided the survey back to do, and it was just all negative. It was just all blockers, and I thought, right, we've got to change that perception of people, because most people that I know that work in our profession, you know, they can tell you some great stories of what they've done to enable their business to operate better and more effectively and efficiently by including the risk people or the health and safety people as part of that team. You know, if you leave them siloed in a little department on their own, you're never going to get that integration. And I think the other thing with risk is that I think you become more integrated within a business because of the word risk, I think. And certainly the IIRSM, when you look at our membership, over 8,000 and it's growing significantly this year through our UAE sort of memberships, and that they're joining us because of that risk element, and the risk element that they can see they can support their own businesses in. So it's, you know, it's getting out there, and it's through groups and, you know, our branch meetings that we can raise the profile on it, bring people in and explain to them that by being a risk professional is a great career, and the IIRSM is really a great place to sort of hang your hat on, really, because you'll get the support. So whether you're a risk professional in health and safety, security, or whatever it is, you know, so lots of things to go at.
Yeah. No, I totally get that, and I'm totally with you on that. I just wonder, because obviously you work right in the heart of the sort of corporate world, Clive. How does your kind of vision as like you say, of health and safety and risk management, how does your perception, how does that get greeted generally by the, let's say, the you know, your colleagues within Derwent, or as it did within Landsec? Do you think there's an understanding amongst non-risk and safety professionals of that as being realistic, or do you think is it changing at all? Are you able to convince them? Do you think that is the way? Is there a general feeling on that, or is it a real uphill battle?
I think going back maybe 8 years ago, it was an uphill battle. And if I share my experience when I first joined Landsec in 2010, I think it was, where initially I joined the business and it was just like one replacement health and safety person for another. And the reason I came in was to sort of raise health and safety's profile to get it at that level within the board, so we were seen as adding value, and we were sort of inclusive in terms of how the business operated. And the biggest stepping stone that was made there was that I had the conversation with the CEO, and he understood where I was coming from. And then within my first 7 months, from coming in and reporting to a regional sort of director type of person, I reported straight to the CEO. And then all of a sudden, the fact that you report to the CEO gives you that gravitas, and it gives the rest of the people in the business and the supply chain how important health and safety, so risk management, is to the business. And that's a great example, and I'll never forget what Rob Noel did for me in that respect, not only personally for me, but what he did for the culture in Landsec around that. And then because you've got that link into a CEO, you've then got that link into the non-execs and other board members, and it just raises our profile a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not the easiest thing to do, depending on where you work, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, using your influence on the winning people over, I guess, is a big part of playing the game, I guess, at that kind of level.
The word influence.
Sorry, go on.
The word influence is the key to our success. That's it's all right having all our letters after our names, that you've qualified in this and qualified in that. But if you can't influence people, you've got no chance.
Absolutely.
And that's a real skill, a softer skill that our risk professionals need to get out there and raise our profile, personally.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a really good point. Andrea Dodds, thank you ever so much, has put a question in here. Clive, is there a way that we can tangibly demonstrate our input as risk professionals to business owners that has a financial benefit to them? For example, insurance premium savings or discounts after our support or positive intervention. What's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely great question, and the straight answer to it is yes, but obviously you need evidence to support that yes. And I'm going to link back to Lantec again here and my previous employers at Asda Walmart and now at Derwent, because the big bit around some of my major achievements have been getting in with our insurance teams, and then by demonstrating to them in terms of what we do and how we do it and mitigating risk, it reduces your premiums, because all the good practice that you can bring in around mitigating risk, and whether it's stuff you may do around fire, whether it's stuff you may do around protecting the public, whether it's stuff you do, there's a whole load of stuff that you can do that can mitigate and reduce your insurance premiums, and that's a really good way to prove to a board that you're there not only just to do what you're supposed to do, but by bringing these sort of and changing the culture, you can have an impact on the with the insurance people, because your innovations and mitigations against some of the risks that we faced on a day-to-day.
Yeah.
Question. It certainly does play a big part, and at Derwent now, one of my sort of what I call internal customers stroke stakeholders is our insurance teams, because they realise by working with it, whether it's going around and doing all your slip testing in all your places and mitigating the fact that you specified the right tile for this, and if you do get a slip, well, you couldn't have done any more because you've done the right thing in the first place. But that's just one example, but I've got several which that I could show and share that would demonstrate to a business that you can do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It absolutely makes sense. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Just move on to the network branches then, Clive. What do you see as the role within IIRSM of the branches?
I think they're key to IIRSM's future success, if I'm honest. And one of the things when I joined the council many years ago was a commitment to get round to all the branches, and we should all set our own KPIs as council members to do so many branch visits per year. Because when we sort of got that in place, the world bloody changed, didn't it? So we couldn't go out and do what we wanted to do, and hence I think now each council member within IIRSM is about having those KPIs to say, look, I live here, so I'm going to support my local branch, and I'm going to go 3 or 4 times a year, whatever it is. And that was my commitment to the Yorkshire branch. Albeit we're doing it virtually now, but there's no better way to do these things than to do it face to face, is there really? And have that sort of networking and chat afterwards over a few sherbets or something. But yeah, I think the key to our success is our regional networks, and as you alluded to at the start, Rob, it's bringing some good speakers in and raising our profile when he speaks to them, she speaks to them, and you're bringing more people on board because they're going to get some value out of it. I've lost you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, good. Well, yeah, that's obviously what we hope to try and do. I think with a good wind, hopefully we will get some people on board.
Yeah.
We just need the pandemic situation to improve a little bit as well, don't we? And hopefully we'll all get back to normal at some point.
You say the word pandemic again. I think businesses.
Okay, I think you may have. We've touched on this already. I think, Clive, in your answer to the first question. But what did IIRSM can do to expel some?
I've lost you, Rob.
Hello, Clive. Yeah, I can hear you. I'm with you.
I couldn't hear you. That's all.
Donna, are you? Is everything okay?
Yeah, I'm fine at my end. I just couldn't hear you.
All right.
Rob.
Yeah, I'm here.
I think we've just got a few technical issues that
Sorry,
your sound keeps going in and out, Robert. But yeah, we can hear you now.
You're a bit Norman Collier to me.
Right. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. Hello.
Try again, Rob.
Hello. Yeah. Can you hear me, Clive?
Yeah, next question.
Yeah, sorry. I say I think we'd actually you kind of touched on this in your original answer for the first question. What IIRSM can do to help expel some negative images of health and safety in the workplace? You talked about health and safety as being a sort of very negative connotation, really, and you want to see us more as enablers rather than blockers, which I think's a good thing. What about young professional? How do you think we can what the IIRSM can do to help attract young professionals into a career in risk management? What do you think the routes are? Maybe there are different routes now open to them as opposed to down a sort of pure health and safety route. What do you think we can do to help influence that?
Well, there's quite a few bits, but from a IIRSM perspective to start with, the introduction of our new qualification, the sort of risk qualification, which we've now got supported and sponsored by NEBOSH. So that's gone through its trial period, and when that formally launches, I think that's going to be a really great sort of qualification for people to aspire to get. And I think one thing I would like to do is try and get around some of the sort of, and we tried it a couple of years ago at Reading University by going in and speaking to people about what they're going to do when they leave. And if they're not aware of what sort of a great career as a risk professional could have, they're never going to know until they get into a normal job, and then they hear about it by default. So yeah, I think it's about getting into these colleges and the like to raise, well, this is a career opportunity for you, you know, as a risk professional, and these are the sort of, and really showcase some case studies in terms of what people's journeys are, and it's not one of those jobs that you fall into when you've finished another career, if you know what I mean. You know, the benefits of, you know, what we don't is people like me all the time is seen as that health and safety person. What you want is the younger people coming through that have got some real drive and energy and that confidence to challenge, and you know, and the younger ones have a lot more confidence to challenge than I ever did when I was younger, for sure, you know. And they do, and I think it is, and even now, I mean, I've got a very quite diverse team, and the way that I operate is by having a diverse team, because what you do, if you bring people in like yourself, you're just going to get the same old, aren't you?
Yeah.
So it's really a matter of bringing some young blood in, so to speak, that's got some energy and that challenges the norm, and you can get them to sort of you know, realize what input they can have into a business, even at a young age. And I think the difficulty of bringing young people in to our industry is having that credibility then when they go out onto construction sites or go into the workplace where, hang on, what are you doing telling me that for? You're only blinking 26. Do you know what I mean? What life experience have you got to tell me that? And it's equipping them with that knowledge, confidence, that when they do say what they say with conviction, and the person's going to listen, if you know what I mean. And again, it goes back to that influencing, doesn't it? Yeah. It goes back to that influencing skill. But you know, it's. I mean, if you just use the construction sector as an example, trying to bring young people into that, it's the same, because a kid might go to a careers convention at a college and being shown about bricklaying, whatever it is in the construction sector, goes on to mum and dad and says, oh, I want to go into construction. Mum and dad's perception of construction is dirty, mucky, and it kills people. Yeah. But when you think of construction now, how it is, you know, if you're a qualified tradesman, either health and safety, whatever it is, it's a good industry to be in. You know, it's well paid and well respected, you know. So it's getting into those colleges to educate them around that, you know, and IIRSM go into these sort of, I don't know, once they open up again, these college road shows and things like that, for me would be a good thing, and then showcase the NEBOSH qualifications and mentoring programs and all them sort of things. But instead of falling into the profession when you're 35, 40 plus, you know, which a lot of people do, unfortunately. I was the same, you know. So I think we've got to get away from that. But.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think you touched on it there in terms of diversity and young people getting into the industry. I think is a challenge, and like you say, the traditional perception of the health and safety manager is always like the old boys, isn't it? Like us, and and he kind of there's an expectation that you must know what he's talking about because he looks like he's got a bit of dirt under his fingernails and he's been around a bit. But I mean, I'm the first to admit I've got no direct experience on a building site. So a young kid that's maybe worked on a building site for 3 or 4 years has got probably more knowledge, working knowledge on a building site than I have, has been on this planet a lot longer. So yeah, it's certainly a challenge within that. Just on that same sort of theme with diversity as well, and again, it's probably I'm thankful that there's one or two women on the call today, but again, possibly you feel that the women may be in a minority in this industry generally. Is that changing, do you think? Is there anything that we can do to help smooth that along a little bit?
It is changing, but it's changing too slowly for my liking. And you talk about influencing. Quite often, when a woman goes onto a construction site or a property or whatever, quite often they get results quicker than a bloke does because they've got a different style of getting things across sometimes, and their behaviour sort of changes the behaviours of the people that they're talking to, if you know what I mean. And for me, the benefits of having that diverse team, whether it's at a my level or a board level, is absolutely crucial to the success, because the more people you can get round the table that with a different perspective on things, and you've got a problem to solve, there's more chance of you solving it because of all these different people's perception. And for me, it's key. I've got two women in my team, and they add a different perspective to the whole industry that I operate in, and it's great, and they add real value. And I think it's important,
I can kind of add weight to that, Clive. Obviously, the time I worked with you at Lansec, and the fact that the team that you had there, the two women that you had in the team there were not what you would class as traditional health and safety managers, but my goodness, they were sharp and had some real knowledge and enthusiasm, and really did add a lot to the to the circumstances. But it's definitely something that we need to get involved in and be aware of. Good. I've got. Sorry, go on.
Sorry. And I say IIRSM will hold its hands up. I mean, it's not until this last year that we've realised ourselves that we need to have a more diverse council. So we're out seeking and recruiting now new council members to come on to give us a more diverse council, because again, if you keep getting the same old, you're going to get and we need to raise our profile around that as well. So
no, absolutely. I think something we all need to be aware of. I'm very grateful. Thank you, Raymond Bone.
Hello, Raymond. How you doing?
I know it's an acquaintance of yours, Clive. So thank you, Raymond, for your questions. I've kind of left it a little bit further down because it's a bit of a technical question. So
what's going on? I've got a bad signal.
He's asking you about the building safety bill, Clive. Do you think they should be, hang on a minute, I've lost the question there. Do you think they should be two completely separate principal designers, one for construction as per CDM 2015 and one for high-rise structure as in building regs?
Dare I say this, Rob, I don't think the principal designers did the job right in the first place. So a lot of them didn't. So
two of them won't be any better than
one. God knows. Yeah. We were talking about this yesterday, me and Paul Bussey, a guy that I work with quite closely, and about this. And I don't know if you've seen them, but we've now got the golden thread documents are out there who sort of went through Parliament last week or this week. I've lost track now. So in terms of what the golden thread looks like, and that in there talks about what is just said, that these two principal designers. I'm really quite nervous on that. If I'm personally honest, how that's going to work. I can see a fire engineer being part of the design team, appointed front end, and you keep that fire engineer right through the construction phase, right through pre-construction, the construction phase, right to the PC. So, you know, the contractors don't change any design spec from a fire perspective, because quite often the fire engineer gets thrown out of the lorry when it gets to construction phase and it's left to the principal contractor to do. So my advice to our board at Derwent is that we appoint within the PD, within the, you know, the architects design, within the design team, is this fire engineer, stroke fire architect, whatever you want to call him, just to, from a client perspective, to take it right through to that PC. From that. But no, I'm really quite nervous when I saw that. I don't know how he feels, but I was.
I think the fact he's asking the question means that yeah, there's some concern about it. Yeah, absolutely. Your other question, Raymond, about the sort of frequency of the meetings. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to arrange another meeting probably for sort of 6 weeks to 8 weeks, and I'm going to try and look at that as a period initially. I think the idea from our IIRSM is to have a minimum of 3 meetings a year. I'd like to do a little bit more than that, but you know, maybe 4 meetings a year and maybe 1 social event is what we intend to do. I mean, obviously there's some restrictions in terms of the pandemic and what have you, but in many ways the online meetings are easier to arrange. So you know, we may be able to do those a bit more frequently, but that's the kind of general intention to that. So another question through from. Sorry, go on, Clive.
Just coming back to Raymond's point. I mean, if it's useful for you, Robin, and the rest of the region, one of the groups I represent IIRSM on is the new Building Safety Alliance group, which is going to be the registration organisation for the building safety managers. So we're in early stages. We've only had our sort of 3rd or 4th meeting now. So I suppose what I'm offering is that whatever comes out of that, we're going to put a link on our IIRSM website with whatever's coming out that we can share. So all I would say is that keep checking the website, because Sophie, she doesn't know it yet, but she's going to be putting a link into the Building Safety Alliance sort of, you know, the outputs that were coming about the new. This is a new registration home for building safety managers. So
excellent.
That might be useful for members, hopefully.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it could be a useful thing. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out for that. Thank you very much. Another question coming from somebody that we both are familiar with, Clive, Mr. Cunningham. All right, Billy, hope you're well. Has the IIRSM any intention of helping to reinvigorate the much maligned OSHCR register? Yeah, it's a while since I've seen that, the OSHCR register. Yeah,
because I think
any thoughts on that?
I think it's just got a new lease of life with IOSH, I think, hasn't it?
Right.
I believe Billy might be able to.
Possibly that's where he's picked it up from. We're just wondering if IIRSM have any plans of getting involved in that.
Well, I know Philip Pearson, our CEO, has been involved in the discussions with it,
right.
But I don't know whether it's going to. I mean, I remember when it first started, because I was part of it and I was very supportive of it many years ago, and then it sort of fell off a bit of a cliff, didn't it, the whole thing? But whether or not it, you know, rekindled again and given that sort of profile that people will go to it to, you know, to identify people, I'm not sure. I'm not really sure whether it's going to work, but you know, I mean, I don't know. Is the honest answer, Billy?
Yeah,
I really don't. But
well,
I know it's
we'll sort of.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens there as well.
I mean, there is one thing there is one thing which I could share with. I've just been something I've been banging on for quite a few years now, and it's with recruitment agencies. That when they're recruiting for a health and safety person, they're only ever putting in you need to be a member of IOSH, or you have to have chartered membership.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I've spoke to several over the last months by saying, well, hang on, you can't just use that. I said, I'm only going to employ somebody that's a member of IIRSM. I don't want anybody coming to me with CMIOSH, I said. So you're going to have to start putting in your adverts, I want somebody that's a IIRSM member as well. So don't come back to me. Because again, it's just why they only use that is beyond me. When somebody with, working with IIRSM and's got the right whistles and bells, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Just sort of moving the current state of affairs where we're at. One thing that I've kind of come across really is I think people generally the public has a better understanding of risk management. I think because of the pandemic, I think every time you turn on the news nowadays, there's something about COVID, obviously. And, as risk professionals, we can look at that and we understand it in terms of risk and management of risk. I'm not sure it's that the great British public would necessarily see it that way. But do you think that there might be a better understanding generally of risk management because of the pandemic amongst the great British public? What do you think?
Well, I think businesses have realised the benefit of their health and safety risk professionals within their businesses during the last year, because they've come to the forefront, and we've been able to sort of work as risk professionals to work with businesses around managing the COVID thing. And I think the perception outside the workplace, again, as always, I think there's a different perception about that. Without a doubt, I suppose at least one thing, people know what PPE stands for now, I suppose.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah. You never have to write that again, will you? Then I report you, right?
So it has, and I mean, going back into the workplace now, and I'm not nobody politician at all, but no, it never will be. But people having to make their own decisions around shall I, shan't I, and that's what risk management's all about, isn't it? You've got to sort of weigh up this and that, and it's not about being risk aware, it's about being risk averse. It's acting responsibly and doing the right thing, isn't it? That's what risk is all about. So whether you work in health and safety or whatever you're working, it's the same. We're all making them decisions, aren't we? I mean, I went on the train to London the other day. I still wore my face mask.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
The guard said you didn't have to.
Yeah.
So, but it's still, so I don't know if that really answered your question, Rob, but I think there is more of a,
I just wonder if, it was interesting to get your thoughts on how you feel that if there is a better understanding about risk management, and I think companies have had to, when they've been asked to do COVID risk assessments, which has been a requirement for businesses to operate. I mean, certainly, in the world that I tend to inhabit mostly, which I said is in hospitality. In order to open the doors, they had to do a COVID risk assessment, and so I was getting calls left, right, and centre from everybody going, "Well, how do I do that? What do I do? How do I start doing?" There was very little guidance, the guidance was kind of confusing or changing regularly. So they kind of started to understand a little bit about the value, I think, of looking at risk and how you assess it, and also an interpretation of it, and say, look, I think a lot of people, a lot of companies, they look at things. I think again, you alluded to earlier, as being very much kind of black and white. It's like you can do this or you can't do this. Well, actually, mostly it's in shades of grey. So, and it very much it's up to businesses to make their own decisions on many things. I mean, there's the backstop of legislation and regulations and what have you, but actually there's still quite a lot of scope within that to reach your own conclusions, and that was very true of COVID. There was certainly some must do's and some must don'ts, but your 2 meter social distancing or whatever it might was, but on the whole there was quite a lot of appreciation of able to say, well, do we have to do that? And well, actually, no, you don't have to do that. But do you want to do it? And say, well, yeah, we'll do that because it makes people feel comfortable. So there you go. You've answered your own question. And I guess I do think that I'm hopeful that it might just help in a little way to maybe raise the profile of risk management generally within companies and see the value of being able to turn to people who have got some understanding and knowledge in this area in times of challenge like that, and it's you never know. I mean, people have short memories as well, and when it starts to come back to the money, and it can sometimes disappear quickly as well. But
I mean, I know I've said this to Billy and Raymond in the past. The way that we succeed in terms of what we do is by accepting risk. If you've got the competencies within the business to accept risk, because you can't get rid of everything. But I do firmly believe if you've got the competencies or the expertise that can manage whatever risk it is in your business, why not take risk on? Because you can manage it. Because you're never going to get rid of all risk. So why not use your competencies of your team to do something and manage it as you're doing it? And if you just going back to the COVID bit, if you look at the site operating procedures that the Construction Leadership Council put out, I think we're about version 7 now, but the way that the construction industry adopted those to get their workforce back into the working environment again was credit to the construction sector, to be fair, in terms of what they did and how they did it. And I suppose now all them sort of breaks have been released. What we've said as a client to all our contractors is, well, look, we're still going to support you to keep the environment safe. It's not just about flinging everything away again. It's again, by what you said, it's still about managing the risk and going forward. And I wouldn't just digressing, but it relates to risk and masks and stuff. I share another group, and it's the Health and Construction Leadership Group and the Respiratory Group, and we've made a commitment to the industry with the HSE and the whatever that we will not be using disposable masks by 2030. We're going to really look at respiratory disease and inhalation to make sure that we eradicate it by 2030. The use of the particle masks, and so there's loads of work going off in the construction sector now, and what's helping us educate people is the fact that these people have been wearing masks for the COVID reasons, but they understand why they've been wearing them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Keeping that momentum going now to say, well, look, you've got operating these tools, and that silica dust could still have the same impact if you don't wear a mask. Or so there's a lot of stuff going off out there, and as risk professionals, we've got a massive part to play in the future of all industries, I think.
Yeah, it's ever evolving. But I mean, what would you say? I mean, I think you mentioned about influencing, and obviously you see that as a really important aspect of a good risk manager. But what other qualities do you think generally a good risk manager would need? If you were telling somebody, saying, look, if you want to get into risk management, these are the areas that you need to demonstrate some strength in.
I think you've touched on one of the main ones, that influencing skill, and obviously having the knowledge to support all that.
Yeah.
But I suppose there's a lot around your. You've got to be quite infectious, I think. You've got to be able to you've got to have that. Your body language has got to prove that you're really interested in it, and you're passionate about what you do, because that comes across sometimes if you're deadpan and it just saying something from a screen or something, or a PowerPoint slide. You've got to have that credibility to carry it off in terms of that. And it's not just about having that sort of specific knowledge. It's around knowing the people that you're working with, and it's to get them to do it by choice as opposed to by the documents say you've got to do it this way. So,
finding a way to influence people. It's not. Like you say, the traditional. You must do this. You must do that.
And my approach has always been is not sort of using the cloak of compliance to get something done. it's all around getting them to want to do it because they want to do it. It's the right thing to do. And why waving a book in front of somebody with a regulation, you just blow them out the window. But talking to them about, they still want to go on holiday next year with their families, and they still want to buy this and buy that. So having a really good working environment helps you do all that, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So getting them
Absolutely.
to do it by that choice is sort of influencing the sort of them sort of areas of pricking the consciences, I suppose.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think just on that, I think traditionally there's been training has been obviously a key part, and it is a key part in terms of many. It's in many controls in risk assessments, providing training and what have you. And just interested in how you see how that's changed during your sort of time in risk management. I mean, there's an awful lot of e-learning goes on these days. People are given on an induction. They're given like 4 hours to sit in front of a laptop and complete all those courses before you can do anything. I just wondered what your thoughts were on that, and how valuable you think that might be, and how useful it is.
I think I've always been an advocate of face-to-face training. I always have been up until recently, and I think going forward, I think it could be a really balance of both, Rob.
Right. Yeah.
I still think there's a place. I think there's certainly a place for e-learning for sure. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I still think there's a place for that face-to-face interaction with other people to talk about a particular event or a particular topic that you might not get the same interaction via a Zoom team calls that you would sat round a table with somebody. So I think there's a place for both, and to get that real interaction going. And when you stop for a brew and you go to Tea Point and you're still talking about it, you know what I mean. I've adopted that mix now at Derwent, where we've got just the online stuff. It's there, but we've still got. Well, we will be going back to some of the face-to-face stuff as well, and
good.
I think saying that technology for e-learning it's gone like that, hasn't it? It's fantastic what they've been able to do, and so
thankfully it has. I mean, there's still a lot of awfully bad e-learning courses knocking about, so it is, I suppose, like everything, it's about the quality of it. But I think I'm with you in the fact that face-to-face training, you get so much more from it, and it's how you absorb the information as well, isn't it? I mean, there's an awful lot of people that just, I know places where people just pay somebody to just do the e-learning, and then get it out of the way because they can't be bothered. So there's always question marks for me as to when it takes place, but there's definitely a place for it. But I say it's a blend is probably the ideal scenario, to be honest with you.
I mean, I recently I did my mental health training again earlier on in the year, and that was learning. I thought, well, how's that going to work? How's it going to work?
Oh, you did that online, presumably, yeah.
Well, the Zoom call, But the tutor were fantastic, and it worked. And I did think it would. It were great.
Yeah.
So if you get the right person doing it,
I think 100%.
Yeah.
No, I think it works. I mean, I've done IIRSM Managing Safely on sort of 3 days on Zoom, and it's been it has worked very well actually. And if people feel more comfortable, they're at home, and you can nip out and let the dog out and make yourself a brew and all that kind of thing. So there's value to that. I mean, it's more of the kind of prescriptive click a page and move on e-learning kind of courses that I think sometimes may not necessarily satisfy all the demands and the requirements, but there you go.
But there are some companies that give you 3 or 4 e-learning courses as part of your induction, and I think they pick the box and off you go. And
that's
it. I don't like that. That's not my.
No, that's it. No, particularly. No, I agree with you. Good. So, listen, we've just had nearly an hour, Clive. I can't believe how quickly it's gone. Actually, we originally sort of set this for an hour. I don't seem to have any more questions in the box, unless anybody's got anything they'd like to just throw at us quickly before we go. But if there aren't any more questions, just like to say that well, listen, first of all, thanks ever so much, Clive, and you know, thank you for sort of the encouragement that you've given me to get this thing off the starting blocks, and thanks very much for your time today. I do appreciate that, and your insight and everything else. And it would be great to get you to a meeting, and you know, in the not too distant future.
Yeah.
And if we can have a pint, then all better. And if we can see it Ellen Road as well, that'd be special. But so thanks ever so much for your time today.
No, it's an absolute pleasure, and I think there's some real opportunities for IIRSM now to build and grow and to really broaden, you know, the sort of offer that we have and getting the people on board, and you know, we'll get there.
Yeah, brilliant, good. Thanks very much. Just to conclude, I'll sort of mention to you to everybody out there that we'll be arranging some other meetings. I've got a couple of things in the can. Please keep an eye on the website for the details of those, and look out in your emails as well. Just as a little taster for the next meeting, I'm hoping to get on the meeting. I've got an international best-selling author. So now she's an expert in food allergies. So it's something a little bit different possibly for some of you, but it's very, very interesting. It's a growing problem. Is food allergies. It's quite incredible how many young children are born with allergies these days. And if anybody has ever been to a school and been in a school kitchen, it's quite incredible how many kids have got allergies. It's something that's very worrying, really. So and there's some new legislation coming out in October. So Natasha's Law, if you remember the girl who sadly died from Pret-a-Manger, you know, Pret-a-Manger sandwich. So that comes out in October. So I've got her. Hopefully we can get her on for the next call, for the next meeting, and then we're also going to plan a sort of fire safety special as well. So thanks, Billy, for volunteering yourself to come on board for that. So you know, we're going to be doing something on fire safety, which I think is again something. There's new legislation obviously around that recently, and there'll be lots to talk about there. So those are the two things we're certainly trying to get in the next couple of months, and then I'm hoping to arrange a social event. I don't know how the pandemic's going to pan out like everybody. We're not sure, but you know, if all with a good wind, and if things do settle down a little bit, it'd be nice to be able to get together for a social event and sort of press some flesh and meet a few people, rather than looking at me on this screen, which will be fantastic. So again, please look out for all that information. And again, any of you who are willing to get involved, you know, involved in the committee or anything else, or got any suggestions for future events, or willing to volunteer themselves to come along and do a session, that would be brilliant. So thanks very much indeed. So yeah, thanks again, Clive. Donna, is there anything we need to add, or are we happy to call the meeting to a close?
We don't have any further questions. So yes, I'd just like to say thank you, Clive, for giving us your time this afternoon, and thank you, Robert, for a fantastic discussion. And thank you, everyone, for attending.
Yeah, thank you, Donna. Well done.
Lovely.
Thanks, Donna. Thanks for organising it.
Yeah,
all right, yeah.
No
All the best. Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Cheers.